It was a warm spring evening in downtown Atlanta, and the energy of the Carlton Grand Theater was electric. People were buzzing with excitement, flocking into the grand hall in their finest clothes. The lights were bright, the air thick with anticipation, and the stage was set for one of the most exclusive gala performances of the year. The audience, made up of critics, donors, and art world elite, had no idea what was about to unfold. In the corner of the backstage area, there sat a small boy. His name was Marcus. He was 8 years old, blind, and dressed in a simple navy sweater and khaki pants. He wasn't there for the applause or the limelight. No, Marcus was sitting quietly, his hands folded neatly on his lap, just waiting. His mother, Sarah, was backstage too, cleaning up after the workers who were hurriedly preparing for the evening's event. She glanced over at Marcus every few seconds, her eyes soft with a quiet concern. It wasn't supposed to be this way. She wasn't supposed to bring him backstage. He was supposed to be at home with a sitter. But the sitter canceled at the last minute, and Sarah couldn't bear the thought of Leah VYing her son alone in their small apartment. So, there they were. Marcus, alone in his thoughts, while the theater bustled around him. He couldn't see the grand piano that stood center stage, but he could hear the gentle resonance of the keys being tuned, the soft hum of the bass, the high, sharp notes sparkling through the air like stars. His fingers twitched, a familiar stirring deep in his chest. He wanted to feel it. "Mama, can I go closer?" he whispered. Sarah, a bit nervous but willing to indulge his curiosity, glanced around. The stage manager, a burly man named Mr. Foster, was walking by. Sarah stopped him, her voice low. "Sir, could my son sit by the piano for a moment? I promise he won't get in anyone's way." Foster barely glanced at Marcus, shrugging dismissively. "Fine, just keep him out of the way." Sarah smiled at her son, though her nerves were tight. "Go ahead, baby." Her voice trembled with the faintest hint of worry, but there was warmth there, too. Marcus stood, his small body moving with surprising grace. His hands reached out, finding the edge of the stage, his fingers trailing along the polished wood of the floor. He moved slowly, reverently, like someone approaching a sacred space. When his hand brushed against the cold, smooth surface of the grand piano, a soft gasp escaped his lips and almost prayerful sound. Sarah stepped back, watching her son's face, her heart in her throat. She knew what this piano meant to him. She knew the way his fingers itched to play, but she also knew the world he lived in. The piano wasn't for kids like him. It wasn't for kids from his neighborhood, from his background. People like him were supposed to stay in the background, stay silent, stay small. But not Marcus. No, he was different. He'd always been different. His mother had worked so hard to give him a shot at something better, but every door they tried to open had been slammed shut in their faces. And here, in this place, in this theater, it felt like the doors were closing all over again. As Marcus sat down carefully on the piano bench, his hands hovering just above the keys, something shifted in the air. He wasn't just some boy in a backstage area. He wasn't a janitor's kid. He was a musician. And this moment was his. But before he could play a single note, the sound of high heels clicked sharply on the floor, breaking the fragile silence. "Who let this kid touch my piano?" The voice was sharp, cutting through the air like a whip. Marcus flinched. His fingers hovered just above the keys, a look of confusion on his face. His mother's hands clenched into fists at her sides. The woman who stood over them was tall, impeccably dressed in a silky ivory blouse and a tight black skirt. Her blonde hair was twisted up into a severe bun, and her pale face twisted into a sneer. "Get him away from my piano. This is a priceless instrument, and you," she turned to Sarah with a malicious smile, "you wouldn't understand. People like you don't recognize value when it's in front of you." The words stung. They cut deep, but it was the last one that really hit. This piano is worth more than everything your miserable lives will ever touch. Sarah's breath caught in her chest. She wanted to scream, to lash out, to do anything to protect her son. But the years of working as a backstage assistant had taught her one thing. You never make a scene. You stay small. You stay quiet. You let the world walk all over you. Marcus, though, didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He didn't shrink. His small hands balled into fists on his lap, his face stoic, his eyes distant as if he was looking right through Vivian, the woman who'd insulted him, insulted his mother, insulted everything they'd worked for. And then, without warning, he spoke. His voice, soft but steady, was laced with something deeper. "I can play." The words hung in the air, thick with defiance. Vivian's lips curled into a cruel smile, and she leaned down to his ear, her breath cold against his skin. "Then prove it," she hissed. "Go on. Show us what you've got." Before Sarah could protest, before she could even blink, Vivian had already turned away, her voice echoing in the hallway. "Let's see if the little janitor's kid can handle a real piano." With that, the storm was set in motion. Marcus wasn't afraid. No, he wasn't afraid at all. When his name was called later that night, it felt like everything in the theater paused. There was a low murmur from the crowd. Whispers, sneers, laughter. They didn't know what to expect from the blind boy. This mistake of the evening. Was this some kind of joke? Was he just a filler before the real performers took the stage? But Marcus didn't care about the whispers. He didn't care about their pity. He didn't care about Vivian or anyone who doubted him. He cared only about the music. The music that had always been there, waiting inside him, waiting to be set free. When he sat at the piano, the moment seemed to stretch on forever. The spotlight felt blinding. The murmurs from the crowd died down to nothing, and then played. The first note was hesitant, unsure. It was a question, a soft, gentle whisper, a melody rising from somewhere deep inside. His fingers moved across the keys with an unpracticed grace. No sheet music, no grand technique, just a raw, pure expression of what he was feeling, of what he had always felt. It was a song of sadness, of longing, of hope. It was a song of resilience. The audience sat in stunned silence, unsure at first, then slowly, as the notes grew stronger, more confident, something shifted. The energy in the room changed. The laughter, the mocking voices, the sneers, everything fell away. By the time Marcus reached the end of the piece, the theater was utterly still. No one moved. No one dared to speak. And then, suddenly, there was a single clap. It started slow, tentative. But then another hand joined in, then another, and another. In moments, the room was alive with applause. Not polite applause. Not the obligatory clapping of the masses. No, this was real. This was something deeper. Marcus sat there, hands resting on his lap, breathing hard. He didn't smile. He didn't look around. He didn't need to. This moment wasn't for them. It was for him. And in that moment, the world was finally forced to see him. Not as the janitor's kid. Not as the blind boy. But as a musician. A force of nature. Backstage, Vivian stood frozen. Her mouth hung open. Her smirk had vanished. She looked like she had been slapped, and for the first time in her life, she couldn't say a word. And in the middle of all this, someone else entered the scene. Donovan Kadia, billionaire philanthropist, a music patron whose presence in the arts world was legendary, stepped forward. He had been listening, and now, he was here for a reason. He extended his hand to Marcus. "You've got something rare, kid," he said. "I've been in this world of music for 40 years, and I've never felt anything quite like that." The crowd gasped, and then they cheered, not for Vivian, but for Marcus. Marcus had proven them all wrong. He had taken what they thought would break him and turned it into something beautiful, something they would never forget. But for Marcus, it wasn't about the applause. It wasn't about the accolades. It was about something bigger, something deeper. He had found his voice, and in that moment, he had made the world listen. And so, the story didn't end there. Marcus went on to receive a full scholarship to one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. He didn't just prove his worth to the world, showed it to himself. And that's what truly mattered. Months later, he stood on stage again, not as the boy who needed to prove himself, but as a beacon for all those who had been overlooked. He wasn't just a musician. He was a force of change. And that change was just beginning. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Marcus's journey? Do you think the world is quick to judge, or do we all have a chance to prove ourselves? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of inspiring stories like this. Let's keep the conversation going.